supine hip squares, hip circles, and hip squares progressive. So we're starting in a hook line position, meaning your feet are flat on the ground, your ankle, knee, hip, and shoulders are in a perfect alignment, creating the right space that you need. Then her palms are up at a 45-degree angle, arms are out. She's going to bring this foot, or this leg down to the ground and flex this foot back. This leg comes up at a 90-degree angle, and you want the leg to really keep that 90-degree angle. So as you fatigue, the heel wants to kind of drop down to the ground, so you want to really make sure you maintain that. And so in this position, we're using our primary hip flexors to hold this in this position, so you'll start feeling this fatigue after a bit. You're not going to let the knee to get too loose and too much movement here. The movement is initiated from the hip. And so the first one we're going to do is draw a square. So the bigger the square you draw, the harder it gets, but you want a nice clean square. So we're going to bring the knees going to drop over towards me, a nice straight line, then down, then back over, then up, then over, then down, and over, keep breathing, and up, and over. So depending on what your practitioner tells you, you might do 20 this direction, then we're going to reverse it, and down, and over, keeping the foot flexed back, and over, down, and over. And again, repeat what your practitioner recommends. From here, you would do the other side if you're doing hip squares. If we decide that hip circles are going to be the best thing for you, then you're actually going to do the same thing, but you're going to go in a nice circular motion. Not too fast, but kind of feeling like the edge of a bowl, really feeling that range of motion in your hip. So this is repositioning, again, the femur into that ball socket joint, really lubricating the joint, but then also strengthening all the muscles around that it takes, because you're going through abduction, adduction, flexion, extension, and really working all those fibers deep in that socket. This is a beautiful exercise. And so that's a good circle, and then you would reverse it and go the other way. And then repeat for what your practitioner recommends, and then the other side. For a more advanced technique, we're going to pause here at the top, and we're going to go back to hip squares, but this is going to be hip squares progressive. So the progressive means you're going to draw the square, and each one you do, you're going to bring your heel lower and lower to the ground. So if we have 20 reps, you're going to end up drawing a square, nice small square, and then slowly make it bigger square, and then bigger square. So you're going to want to cut 20 in half. So by the time you get to 10, your heel should almost be touching the ground. And again, what this is doing by the progressive, it's working the centric fibers and concentric fibers of the hip more dramatically. And it's taking the hip through a bigger range of motion, really lubricating, really situating that ball socket joint. And it's going to get a little harder. And then once you get down and you're ready to work your way back up, you're going to go big and work your way back up and get smaller. So you're coming back to your starting position. Then you would reverse and do the other side. And that is supine hip squares, or hook line hip squares, hip circles, hip squares progressive.